Can you
Yeah,
see
let's
that?
see. There we go. Yes. Okay, Lauren, I'm going to reintroduce you. So,
Okay, thank you so
Lauren
much. I'm sorry.
Buffaloe-Muscatine is an African American and Indigenous woman whose generational ties in the US date back to 1775. She is a science editor and writer for the University of California, Davis, and is an affiliate of the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. She is the managing editor of the academic journal San Francisco Estuary and Watershed Science, a publication she has managed since 2003. A Napa resident since 2007, Lauren co-founded the Napa County Seed Library with her daughter in March 2020 with the mission to collect, save, and share locally adapted seeds to benefit the people of Napa County. So welcome, Lauren. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And although I talked a lot about me doing science, I'm not going to get too sciencey today. Welcome to current seed librarians, future seed librarians, and everyone here who's just interested in learning. I acknowledge that I live and work on the land named Tallahalusi by the indigenous tribes who still live, work, and teach here. The first peoples of this land are the Mishawal Wapo, Putwin, Coast Miwok, Kishaya, and Southern Pomo tribes. Tallahalusi is situated in the North Bay area, about 40 miles from San Francisco. It's fed by three major watersheds, Napa River, Sissoon Creek, and Poudre Creek, which feeds into the San Francisco Bay. There are three ways you can directly support this land, its indigenous people and their elders. You can donate directly to the Susquehanna Intertribal Council. Charlie Toledo here is the director and a friend. You can attend the Historical Healing and Workshop series. I highly recommend that. Other classes and their annual powwow, which I also recommend. You can also steward the land and continued construction of Susquehanna House through volunteering. Thank you. So what's a seed library? A seed library is a free public resource for seed saving and sharing. I learned about seed libraries when daily life changed remarkably due to the pandemic. My daughter and I co-founded the Napa County Seed Library in 2020 to contribute to our well-being and that of our community. But I often joke that I created the seed library because I wasn't good at making sourdough bread. I didn't think I was going to set out starting a seed library. I was just longing for the things I love. I love this quote from Vivian Censor because it poignantly describes what I felt when I started ours. In 2020, I realized I was fortunate because I had a few seeds and the garden centers in my town were open during the shutdown. And that seemed as threatened then as it does now, but for different reasons. I was lucky that Lavender, my daughter, was enthusiastic about getting started, so I had a partner. The Napa County Seed Library builds community, it inspires gardeners, and expands seed access through volunteer-led free seed library in Napa County. When we began, I wanted to follow the model of putting our seed library inside a public library, but the universe had other plans. Our county's public library was unable to take on the project then because of staff shortages and reorganized objectives during that pandemic. An outdoor seed library annex seemed like a good idea. So our concept took a grassroots approach out of necessity. Our seed library operates as a network of 8 annexes within the county. There are 4 in Napa, 1 in St. Helena, 1 in Angwin, 1 in Carneros, and 1 in American Canyon. And we have 3 more scheduled in the coming year or 2. Each annex serves a unique hyper-local area. I wanted to place annexes where people live, work, pray, learn, grow food, and eat. And we've covered a lot of that, but placing annexes in underserved areas are also a big priority. Why start a seed library? Well, the seed library movement is at least 20 years old, if not older, and global. It grew from people concerned and proactive who desired to inspire people to grow some of their own food, create locally adapted seed and restore plant biodiversity, respond proactively to climate change and natural disasters, develop a network of seed savers, and keep seeds in the hands of people rather than private corporations. If we have time, I can say a little bit more on the second and fifth items listed here. My main reason for starting a seed library was to offer equity. I had seed and I was able to get seed when times were challenging, but I knew others could not. I also wanted to inspire people, especially young people. I wanted to develop skilled seed savers and respond to changes in climate and environmental disasters. That picture there on the right under the word respond shows the area of Altadena, California, who among many, many people in the Los Angeles area are suffering because of the fires there. And recently, myself and many other seed librarians have reached out to Nina Raj of the Altadena Seed Library to replace what has been lost in a partial way, and then offer some efforts to restore and plant when the time is right, when the soil is better. All right, how to begin. My best advice to you today about how to begin is to keep things simple and keep them as collaborative as possible. It takes a lot of people to start a seed library. But I suppose it takes at least one or two who are very passionate and dedicated to it to keep that momentum up. Taking this approach, to begin, you'll need to gather lots of information, engage your community, acquire seeds and materials, ensure seed viability and access. You'll also need to process and package seeds, share skills, and communicate often. Okay, I know that sounds like a lot, and it is. But at least 80%, and I'm not kidding about that, of what you'll need to do is already done, especially, and I'm talking about the gathering information part, right? Because of the accumulated experience, passion, and persistence of the seed librarians who've come before us and done it for a number of years, you have help. So this slide really represents, and if you've got a screen capture, take a picture of this, or if you got a pen and paper out, get ready to write these two web addresses down and visit these sites very often. One is subscribing to the Cool Beans newsletter, and the other is visiting the Seed Library Network. These are places where you can find all the information you need to get started creating your seed library from scratch. Really, because this is exactly where I started in 2020. And I want to give a big shout out to Rebecca Newburn of Richmond Groves Seed Lending Library, who now leads the Seed Library Network. The Seed Library Network is basically a network of seed librarians who are around the world, and we share information absolutely freely so that other people can get a really big lift when they get started. I'll leave this slide up for a few more seconds. As you gather information, you'll need to make some decisions. Will you give events or only offer seeds? Will you put seeds indoors or outdoors? How will you label or categorize your seeds? Will you develop a budget or run according to the donations that you see? There's lots to consider, and there are pros and cons, but the best approach is to do what feels simple, what's fun, and what's easily done. And I'll say this a few more times in the presentation, and I really myself had to stick to that because I'm the kind of person who likes a lot of detail, wants to refine things over and over as an editor, but this kind of project with so many moving parts at times, I had to always come back to simple, fun, easily done. Next, after gathering information, you're going to engage your community. And I think as the earlier speaker talked about, there's many groups you can partner with to get a program of seed saving going in your area. And these community groups provide event space, they share knowledge and skills like master gardeners, they collect materials and package seeds like young people or library staff themselves. They tend to the seed libraries. So I'll give you a little bit of a timeline of how it went for us. In our first year, we partnered with the Buy Nothing Napa online share group. You might have a Buy Nothing group in your area. And they brought to us reused materials, borrowed tools, seeds, and skills, and people to create the first two annexes. In our second year, we tabled at two local farmers markets each month and brought in volunteers to help. These were young people, and everyone really adored seeing them at the market. And the kids really liked coming to the market because they were getting community service hours. Year, we launched our website and social media. So in that way, we began to engage community online mostly because remember, it was 2021 and we were still subject to a lot of limited time outdoors, limited time within each other's in-person presence. So social media and the website helped communicate our message greatly. Now we're in our fifth year and we hold regular events like our annual seed swap and our Tomato Ganza Festival, which celebrates the world popular tomato and shows people how to save that seed. And we have many passionate people who continue to volunteer with us. They share their knowledge, their skills, and their resources. And so an engaged community makes the work light and creates a culture of sharing and caring. I want to pause here and ask to see if you have any questions. I don't know if that's how you've been doing things, but I'm happy to engage some questions in the middle or while I talk.
Lauren, we've been doing things where people have been putting questions at the end.
Okay.
And they're
That
putting
sounds
questions
great.
in the chat, and then I will help moderate those for you if you want.
That sounds great. Yes, I would love that help. So yeah, just keep writing those questions in, and these will be slides to pause so that you can kind of catch up with that if you're thinking about things. Onto seed take or seed ensuring seed viability and access. When you intake, handle, label, and store seed, these activities are all essential to preserve the seed viability. And I want to make a note here that I'm not relating this kind of viability with germination at this point, but that is important. Seed libraries are legally exempt from testing for seed germination in our state under the California seed law. So our seed library trusts the labeling on seed from the commercial market because we do get donations from seed companies. And we handle and store all seed to preserve the highest quality. So cool, dark, dry conditions. When in doubt, when we have the time, we do occasionally test for good seed germination, but generally we trust that those who donate seeds to us are sharing seeds that are viable. We simply don't have the people power to test all seed for good germination, but we focus on proper storage, knowing the length of time that seeds of different varieties remain viable under those conditions. So all seeds you want to make sure are contained and stored properly to prevent mold, excess heat, excess moisture, and pest damage. Some great storage spaces in your home if you're starting from that point like I did, or is your garage, an indoor closet, a refrigerator, even a chest freezer, which we eventually did get. To avoid molding, heat stress, and low germination, we remove the seeds from our outdoor annexes until more favorable weather arrives and notify our community when they reopen. So that happens quite a lot in California. We get really extreme heat, and then we get punctuated periods of really intense rain, and the outdoor seed library annexes, although they're built for being outside, they can't take that sustained, level of extreme weather. So I am definitely in touch with all the seed library, seed keepers, we call them, the ones who tend the annexes, so that we can remove the seeds and replace them when the conditions are optimal. Our indoor seed libraries in the St. Helena and Napa Library are protected from that extreme weather year round, and they remain inside during and open during the library hours. So about seed access, that can vary among seed libraries and the approach you take. With our annexes, everything is self-serve and available unless that weather is not optimal or that the public library is closed. So we use an honor system, and essentially people can borrow unlimited amounts of seed from those annexes. We use signage, though, to remind people to take only what they can grow in their growing spaces in one season. So making distinctions and decisions again, you'll have to ask yourself some questions. Are you detail oriented, or in general, is your approach to seeds more, I won't say loose, but just very limber? Follow your instincts, making decisions that are simple for you when you get started. We decided, as I mentioned, to use an honor system rather than a membership system. A membership system is different. It's where you would put a binder out and allow people to enter their names, what they borrowed, how much they borrowed, if it's one packet or more, if you have a limit to how many packets people can borrow under a membership system. Those are the kinds of things that you're asking them to self-record in that kind of a system. So we encourage people to borrow and return seeds seasonally using their best judgment, and ask them to be mindful of others that sign there. I mean, it's really makeshift, but it's really necessary to sort of let people know that it's an honor system, but we want you to share with others, right? Another thing you might need to decide is if you're going to track the number of seed packets that are donated to you. We do that by creating an inventory of incoming seed packets on a spreadsheet, and we're tracking the number of commercial seed packets donated to us, not necessarily the ones that are donated by users. That amount usually it's sort of about 10 or 20%, while the larger number of commercial seed packets make up what we distribute through the annexes. That, in addition to what farmers or other growers like myself will generate under organic growing conditions in Napa County. We do the inventory to get an idea of how much seed we're receiving and passing to the community. So we have some kind of quantitative numbers to talk about. And we also receive bulk and packaged, we also repackage some of the bulk seed into jars and coin envelopes. However, as I was saying before, these donations are not recorded on the inventory sheet, since they only make up about 10 to 30% of our inventory. Next, you're going to want to acquire seeds and materials. And depending on the approach you take, you'll want to consider storage containers and envelopes, tape, scissors, pens, etc., seed saving guides, and of course, seeds. Based on the materials and seeds you choose, you'll figure out if you will also purchase special seeds and repackage bulk seed. And in that picture below, myself and librarian Katie are repackaging bulk seed that we purchased specially for the annexes inside the libraries, because in that system, we hand package everything. There's a lot more people coming through borrowing from that seed library, and probably less returning just because of the conditions indoors. But that's not always true. The one in St. Helena has a really high rate of return there. But yeah, you'll need to decide whether you have the people power to do that and whether you even want to. You'll also want to decide if you want to create a budget for materials, and I actually do recommend that. Or if you're going to offer only certain types of seed, maybe you're only focused on native seed, maybe you're focused on organic seed only. Um, what I found is that creating a budget for materials helps because probably the biggest expense that you're going to have are the actual envelopes and maybe the labels that you have to continually make and print in order to get good information on your jars and your envelopes and whatnot, and the signage actually where the seed library exists. But if you have more questions on that, please enter them in the chat. Here's some images of what we've used to give you an idea of how, we've gone through this acquiring seeds and materials portion. That cooler that you see, we had to kind of come up with a makeshift way to protect seeds in the extreme heat just behind one of the outdoor seed library annexes. It gets a high degree of sunlight in the afternoon, and we didn't realize how intense that sun would be on those seeds. And so during those extreme times, there wasn't a way for us to bring the seeds in the church behind it, but we dug a big hole and put a cooler. This was temporary, right? A cooler inside the hole, and then put the seeds inside the cooler during the 1 or 2 days that was going on. Each seed library annex also has like a humidity and temperature gauge inside. So we kind of try to track those numbers as weather gets more extreme in the summer and sometimes in the winter. We used a variety of reusable materials in the upper right. And I experimented with labeling using a stamp so that I could increase the ability to recycle those envelopes. We also grow a good amount of seed. I grow some in my home garden, but now I work with Cliff Family and I grow some heritage seed varieties beginning last year and again this year, which has given us quite a bit of space to increase the number of culturally meaningful varieties that we're interested in growing. I purchased quite a big number of seed saving books. And as associated with libraries, you want to be able to showcase those books and encourage the library staff to bring that into their collections if they haven't already, so that people can get education alongside of the seeds that they're borrowing. That lower right photo shows the variety of seeds and different types of packaging that we get. We get commercial seeds, we get seeds in jars with labels, we get seeds in small envelopes with labels. But the most important thing about that is that it has all the right information on it. And you just need to make a template for those, like a donation form for those, and give them those prompts so that they know what they need to include when they're donating seed. Next, you'll begin to process and package seeds once you've acquired them and secured good conditions for viability. Our first donations were almost 100% commercial seed packets, but we wanted to slowly transition to more locally adapted homegrown seed, regionally grown seed. You'll need to decide whether you'll leave seeds inside the packets or the jars or repackage the seed. And so we do both. It's a huge effort. Inside the outdoor annexes, seeds are filled with commercial packets or in jars so people can take out what they want into coin envelopes. And at one annex, we repackage commercial seed into the same sized coin envelopes and relabel them, like I was talking about with Katie and I doing that at the library. Now, after about 5 years, we have a mix of 70% commercially packaged seed and 20% bulk seed, and about 10% seed donated from local seed savers. And that's a mix of commercially packaged seed or locally grown seed. To do the seed processing and packaging, we draw heavily on the community to help us. My daughter's 8th grade class and her high school's freshman ag bio class were happy to fulfill their community service as volunteers at events. And even just in, in a open church space where we just had a seed processing party in there. Their example brought other young people into our events. A small women's group helped harvest and process seed right there on site where a farmer friend of mine grows. My good friend Anayeli Cruz and others are key volunteers who translate to the Spanish-speaking community at in-person events and on some of the videos that are kind of evergreen. So my advice here is to be sure you establish a contact list with emails and phone numbers and manage it consistently. You will return to these people over and over, and they will return to you. And that was one of those big happy surprises that I did not foresee, I didn't count on. But I always advertise for volunteers, but I typically find that there's even more that show up without even me asking. So don't be afraid to ask and keep contact with them. As I mentioned before, I bought a lot of books. I had to study up and learn how to properly save my garden seeds. In 2020, I didn't have any skill with that at all. I was new to it but because of so much information available online, it was only a matter of time before I found really good success with the easy ones. After a year or two, I began to teach others, starting with children first, and starting with the easiest seeds, which are tomatoes, lettuce, beans, peas, and marigolds. And later, I volunteered with local veteran farmers. One of my favorite people is Luis Padilla, who's there on the left. And he had beautiful seed to share with me, and he's shown me how to grow and save them. And then below there's myself, my daughter, and a friend of mine and her son. Well, I guess it's just them, not me. I was taking the photo, and they're shelling peas. So there's lots of information to share, lots of stuff to communicate. You'll need to let people know how to use the library, how to read a seed packet, how to plant and save seeds, how to support and donate to your project, how to collaborate with you, how to join in-person events. Yeah, that covers quite a lot, but it's pretty easy to get that information out. Like I said, if you haven't done it already, make sure you are looking up Seed Library Network and you're signing up to Cool Beans. It's a Substack newsletter that comes out. It's probably twice a month. And it'll connect you with quite a number of initiatives and resources for seed libraries, including ways to share this kind of very static and maybe changing information. You'll need to think about the communities you're serving, however. Think closely about where they get information regularly. Not everybody goes to the public library. Not everybody goes to the food bank. But in other places where they're getting community services, you definitely want to put information there. And you'll want to consider what languages they're speaking. For me, where I live, Spanish is spoken among a good 30 or 40% of the people in my county. So I make sure that Spanish is translated everywhere I can get it. You'll also think about who are the people that are underserved in your in your area, and how can you reach them by communicating differently? My daughter was tending to remind me too that um, when I do social media, trying to describe the photos there using alt text is really important for people who can't see. So that's a lot to think about. And sometimes it's a stretch. Sometimes that's a good thing for someone who's volunteering or who you might have hired for those kinds of things. But it's really, really important to be as inclusive as possible in this effort. Like I said, one of my main goals was equity. I mentioned earlier that we got started with our social media in 2021, and we communicate regularly there. This isn't for everyone, but I happen to be a person who's online a lot through my job. And I publish lots of different things. So this was an easy thing for me to do. May not be easy for you or even a priority, but a major portion of information is consumed digitally. Um, that said, we communicate in print as often as we can. Again, think about the communities you're serving, what languages they're speaking. We recently went to TikTok, and I did hire a 17-year-old to help me with that. He is so great at understanding what's needed there, and short bursts of information, short visual content really gets people interested and engaged. They ask questions. I was pretty shocked because I'm kind of a long form person. But if you need help with trying to figure out how to communicate in a different space, there are people there who will give you the insight and even the tips to do it well. We give presentations, we host events, and we partner with many types of groups to communicate our mission, teach seed saving skills, and create a culture of sharing. People really come out for this, especially in the last couple of years. When people know what you're doing and where, they get curious about what and why, and they want to contribute and participate with you. I know that our events and our social media really increased the community that we've engaged. All right, what about funding? Seed libraries are typically, we need some financial resources to begin and to continue our missions of providing and distributing seeds. Some of those regular expenses include office supplies, shipping fees, special seeds, event materials, insurance, and booth fees. With the help of some community partners, and that's really important, that's another aspect that's important, you can piggyback on what they have. And this is where I'm talking about event materials and insurance. And they'll waive things for you, like shipping fees and booth fees. You can get things shared, like the office supplies. We achieved nonprofit status in 2021, and that took us about a year to complete. And that allows us to raise funds and allows other people to write off their donations from their tax returns. Since 2023, we've raised enough funds to pay for about 70% of our expenses. And the remainder of our expenses are covered by me and my family. You may not have initially at all a lot that you need to spend on your seed library. And I encourage you to start very simply and frugally. I happen to be a person who likes a lot of big events and, go all out. And so I think it's just because of me, it kind of expanded in that way. So it's, again, a decision you need to make. And I would start slowly, simply, keep it fun and easily achievable. some keys for achieving financial stability and groundedness in your project is to keep an abundance mindset. And what I mean by that is the seeds really tell that story for you. Once you get involved, you'll start to recognize just how much nature gives back and gives back greatly. And a lot of that is for preservation, but a lot of that is simply to show off. I think, I mean, I'm always impressed by how much seed can be produced by a healthy plant. And I get so appreciative of that too. You know, what a gift. If you can also keep things simple while you scale up, you'll really, really, you'll stay in your own lane. You know what I mean? You'll be able to doing handle doing too much or doing more and being feeling supported by it. So continually ask yourself and your team if you want to keep your project simple or you want to go for more. Don't escalate things until you're ready and you have support. Scale up as you can. And remember, people are the most precious resource, not money. Borrow, trade, and lend materials, seeds, event supplies as much as you can, and get sponsorship as you make mission aligned and trustworthy connections with individuals and organizations. I like to, when I came across the notion of a gift economy, I thought, oh my gosh, that is brilliant. And I really believe that seed libraries are centered in a gift economy. They're essentially powered this way. And a quote by Robin Wall Kimmerer, who I greatly admire, she wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, if you know that book. She says this: gratitude and reciprocity are the currency of a gift economy, and they have the remarkable property of multiplying with every exchange. Their energy concentrating as they pass from hand to hand, a truly renewable resource. The good that is served is community. I think that is beautiful. And right now, with a new book that she has and that essay that she wrote, can't remember the title of it right now, she is supporting the Little Free Library movement, which came before, I think, seed libraries, but it has the same concept, right? Even as you embrace your seed library as being a hub of a gift economy, be ready to receive cash donations by doing these things. You'll want to establish a bank account, appoint a person to manage it. When we were at the farmers market and people wanted to do more than just tip us with cash, they wanted to use an electronic form of payment. I was encouraged to establish a PayPal, a Venmo, Cash App, and then eventually use GoFundMe for person-to-person donations and transactions. When you do this, be transparent and specific about how the funds will be used. You know, it may not be necessary for you to establish a 501c3, but when you get out in public and people want to contribute and they're not looking for a tax deduction or they're not looking for a piece of paper from the government, you just want to make sure you're handling things responsibly and you're giving people the message that you respect and are using their donations wisely. Well, that's what I have for you today. It's been a pleasure to talk with you and share how we started our seed library and how you can start a seed library from scratch. Remember, keep it simple, fun, and collaborative, and you'll find it's easily done. And never stop longing for the things that you love. I'll leave you here with some places you can stay in touch with me and Lavender and our seed library project.
I love that talk. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let me go through and ask you some of the questions that were put in during that talk. Um,
Sure.
Deb asked how much you spend per year on your library.
I spend probably I spend what I have because it's a nonprofit, and that's good. But I think on average I spend at least 3,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. You don't have to do it this way. Really, really you don't. But consider I have 8 annexes. There were construction involved. I do at least 6 events. Um, People do give honoraria for me when I do the events. And like I said, we have nonprofit status and I run a GoFundMe. So a good 70% of that is funded by the community.
Awesome. Also, if you think about it, if it's something you like spending your time doing, if it's almost like a hobby, there are
Mm-hmm.
hobbies that cost way more than 3,000 a year.
That's a
And,
good point.
doesn't give back to
Yeah.
the community in the same way.
Right, right.
Mariko asked, do you have any sources for biodegradable cellophane or packaging, not for long-term storage, but just as a short-term way to parcel seeds out in the library, or any thoughts on using that in practice?
Those I do. And that was when my daughter and I used to make soap. So there's lovely clear cello type bags that are biodegradable. There are also larger, like not fully gallon size, but close to gallon size Ziploc bags that are fully biodegradable. But here's what's going to happen is you make a an experiment of it first, buy a little bit, and both of those I got on Amazon, and I think the cello bags were from the company called Clear Bags, and the other bags, gosh, I have one right here. Anyway, I can send that to you later. You're gonna have to store some seeds in it and see how well it does. Because over time, they're going to break down. I think that if you trust that your seed library is turning over quickly, you're gonna be fine. But you'll have to inform people that that is a biodegradable bag because as it starts to break down, pests can get in there, all kinds of stuff can happen. But that's a good idea.
Sure. Sarah asked, which are your favorite seed saving books? And if you can't think of them right now, you can
Oh,
feel free to
oh yeah. No,
find
no,
the
no. I'll
links and
go
put them
back
in
to
the.
that side. Um, that Basic Seed Saving by Bill McDorman, and Bill McDorman, yeah, you can get that from Seeds Trust. So I put that slide back up. The one by Carol Dappy is very good and often well regarded. I kind of like to go with the very small mini ones. Um, I can't think of any other offhand, but I used to have. I will send a list for you. I should have brought that slide in there.
Awesome. And is the bar and return okay in the annexes, not commercial?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand that question.
Christine Calloway, you want to add a little bit more into the chat of what you mean with your question that I think you asked closer to the beginning of the talk about, is the borrow and return okay in the annexes?
Hello. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. I was just sort of circling back to the first speaker, and she mentioned being careful about not, in a library scenario, I think, not accepting payment or even trades from people because that took you to commercial status. And so, I want to be cognizant of that if that's the case.
In an actual library or what I mean, in a public library? Is that what you're
I
saying?
believe she was talking about when it's in a public library, which is where I work. Yes.
Yeah, you might need to think about that and work with your public library. My public library understands that we're a nonprofit
Hmm.
and they just give QR codes at the library that bring them back to my site if people want to donate cash. We
Oh, I
don't
see.
take a lot of seed donations at this point in that public library because we we're still kind of scaling up the process
Hmm.
and we haven't kind of worked out the donation bin part yet. I mean, it's super brand new. It's only been since September.
Yes, thank you. I was kind of thinking that was the case. We have seed libraries in a couple of our branches already, and they're just distribution points. So,
Yeah.
but the annexes seem to be different, and we can do that model. We have little free libraries. So thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome.
Awesome. Thanks again, Lauren. That was great.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break until our next speaker, Laura
Okay.
Hutter. And just in case anyone missed the note by co-organizer Anita, if anyone has contacts with seed libraries or community gardens that were affected by the fire, the California fires, please let
Yes.
Anita know. We have a list of people wanting to donate seeds.
Okay, I will definitely reach out to Anita for that.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks
So
so much, y'all.
thanks again, Lauren. That was great. And I will put Lauren's email again in the chat in case anyone wants to reach out to her directly. And then we're going to take about a 10-minute break until